Space show, quarantine time, excellent.
I'm Anthony Crimmins.
And I'm Kyle Saunders. This is the Stick Star Space Show.
That's right, Kyle. This is the Stick Star Space Show, and today we're joined by our guest, Dan Carson, assistant coach at the United States Air Force Academy from Colorado Springs. Dan, how are we doing today, Coach?
We're doing awesome. I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. Thrilled to talk lacrosse. I think we're all missing it in a big way. You know, I should be preparing for the Richmond Spiders right now, and you know, that's not happening. So we're kind of bummed, but we're definitely thrilled to be talking about lacrosse. And you know, beautiful thing about the game of lacrosse is it's very seasonal. So this too shall pass, and before you know it, we'll be back talking lacrosse in you know, the 2021 season. So thanks for being here, guys, and inviting me on.
Yeah, pumped to have you, Coach. How's everything going out there on the Western Frontier right now? You're in Colorado Springs, right?
Yeah, Colorado Springs. We currently are waiting, hoping to get our shelter in place removed on just kind of a Colorado scale. You know, I was talking to you guys earlier, but the seniors graduated this past weekend, April 18th, and it was a really special ceremony. You know, Vice President Mike Pence spoke to the seniors. It was the first commissioning of the United States Space Force. So we sent our first, I think it was like 150 or something, graduates to the United States Space Force. So that's a real thing. It's happening.
Wow.
And, it was pretty cool. They wore a different sash, and it's really cool to see. You know, the only way that we can kind of relate it to anything is the Navy and the Marines. And so Space Force is kind of the Navy's Marines, you know, the Air Force's Marines type of thing. So really exciting stuff. You know, we graduated 7 pilots, 1 RPA pilot, a couple guys going to go work in space, probably doing some sort of financial logistics, and you know, 1 guy is going to go be a missileer. So with his finger on the button, which is crazy.
Right.
But yeah, we're pumped. It's been exciting past couple of days after a very slow past couple of weeks. Right.
I mean, what's your day-to-day looking like now that we're kind of settling in to this whole situation at this point? You know, have you established, you know, your new routine? Has it changed? You know, are you getting out and enjoying, you know, what Colorado has to offer, or not really at all?
You know, we're trying to adhere to the rules. I think the hardest thing is actually having our seniors have been here and not really having been able to spend time with them because of the rules. Like, you know, you want to send your seniors off and you want to share stories. And so that's been tough. The day-to-day, I got to get a workout in every day. That's pretty much my sanity. We've had a couple snowstorms. And so when you get a snowstorm and you're in the house for 2 days during this quarantine, it's crazy. My back deck overlooks the mountains. And so when I can go out on the back deck and I can pull the laptop out and I can do some emails, I can do some Zoom calls, I can connect with my athletic director or the staff. You know, right now what we're doing we're splitting the offense and defense, and we are doing IQ sessions. And so there's a couple guys going to lead it, and then the coaches, Coach Junior and I will jump in and we'll just talk about, okay, let's watch this game. Why is this important? Coach Junior had us watching some outlaw film last week, which was pretty cool. So we're watching various different levels of lacrosse. And that's been fun. It's been a good way to keep our guys engaged. And other than that, you know, trying to stay in shape so I don't put on the quarantine 15 as people were joking, and you know, getting excited and hoping for good news, because I think we're all looking for some good news going forward here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, are you able to like hike? Are the parks still open, but with social distancing? Like here in Texas, they just reopened state parks, but you're not allowed to camp overnight, for instance. It's day use only, and you have to have a mask and make sure that you're observing the 6 feet of social distancing in the state parks. Is that going on there?
Yeah.
Have you been able to enjoy it?
Out. I mean, my wife and I've got a dog. and this is like the best life she's ever had. She's out walking 2 or 3 times a day, and she loves the hike. It's actually been kind of cool. I've been able to train her to the point that we don't use a leash anymore. So we'll go hiking. There are specific hikes that I know that a lot of people don't go to.
Right.
It takes about 45 minutes to get there, but we'll try on a nice day to get out if we can, as long as I don't have any Zoom meetings and stuff. There's definitely, I went to one hike and I tried to pull in the parking lot on a Saturday morning, and it was like packed to the brim. It was overflowing, and I looked and I was like, we're not going there. Like, we're not gonna.
Right.
There's no chance you can social distance and wear a mask and try to follow the rules in that setting. So the hope is to just try to find a couple spots here and there that there's not a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, people are out. The mountain bikers are out, full force, rock climbers. Like, it's pretty hard to keep Colorado people down.
Right.
I think a state-long mandate to keep people indoors until June, you might see all the outdoorsy people in revolt. But
Right. I mean, this moving into the summer is the time to be outside there, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
You're out of
14-year season's just around the corner, hiking 14,000-foot mountains, tallest peaks in the state. It's nothing better than, summertime in Colorado is my favorite time, hands down. So we're getting right around to that time period.
Right. I mean, the only thing from a nature standpoint for me is, we've got White Rock Lake right around about 10 minutes from where we live at. And it's just getting in the trails out there are absolutely packed right now. Walkers, runners, bikers.
What do you got?
I'm sorry. We just had an F-35 flyby.
Yeah.
Buzz the tower.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Welcome to Colorado Springs.
That's right.
It's awesome. Buzzing your tower, buzzing the space show.
Big buzz in the tower. That was pretty cool. What you were talking about?
Yeah, out at the lake here, and it's right in the city, and it's a big park, and obviously there's a ton of people out walking and biking, and for me, it's just like I go put my kayak in the water and go paddle for a little bit, and
awesome.
Literally like pretty much the only boats on the water right now, which has been cool. But was kind of curious if you could, for the listeners and watchers out there, just kind of give us your background, how you ended up at the Air Force Academy, and how long you've been there, what your current role is, all of that.
Yeah. So I'm going just, I guess at this point, finished year 4 at the Air Force Academy. I like to say I've been a part of every level of lacrosse that there's been. I was a Division III lacrosse player at Marymount University. I swam in college, so I was a 2-sport athlete. When I graduated, I was a grad assistant at the Division II level for a year at Ohio Valley. I took a club program at Grove City from club to varsity, now headed up by Alec Jernstedt. Shout out to Alec, he's the man. And then got my opportunity to coach at Richmond at the Division I level. So coaching Division 2, 3, 1. And I've been there since. I spent some time at Richmond, spent some time at Princeton, and now have spent the last 4 years at Air Force running the offense. I coach offense. I'm actually blessed to every day get to coach with John Grant Jr., who is one of the greatest lacrosse players to ever play the game. And, it's been fun because I see things in a very literal if-then kind of way, and he's seeing things in the most creative. Like, he'll come at halftime and have like this grand new play that he just thought up. And you're like, we've never practiced it, and we've won games just running a play, and the guys are like, they're all fired up, and it keeps things spicy, keeps things fun. I've also, in my time there, I've coached the goalies a little bit when I first started, the first 2 years I was there, and then the last 2 years. So I've been running the offense and then heading up the face-off unit. So I've everything other than coaching the defensive end of the field, I've pretty much had my hand in, doing. So it's been fun. My Air Force experience, I wouldn't trade it for anything, and being there.
So the Air Force experience is definitely unique. And the end of this season was also very unique. So what was the last 48 hours of the season like for you guys? How'd you guys find out? Were you able to speak with your squad and the staff before they knew? How did it all kind of play out?
Yeah, it's it's unfortunate for everyone. I think it was Wednesday. We were playing Furman home game against Furman on Saturday, I think maybe the 14th or something. It was our first conference game of the year. The boys were all jazzed up. We were ready to go. We just had a really good game against, especially offensively. We put up 15 against Canisius. A face-off game, we went 70%. So, we were clicking on all cylinders, ready to go into conference play, which is the best time of year. And, to find out on Wednesday that potentially the season could cancel after this weekend, we don't know. Then go into the office for an emergency meeting with the whole athletic department Thursday, March 13th, I want to say it was, or maybe it was the 12th, and have an 8:30 in the morning meeting and basically be told, yeah, everything's over for the most part, depending on your conferences, to then by noon have the NCAA just say, hey, yeah, we're done. We're going to cancel all spring sports, and the end of, to not have March Madness, to cancel spring sports. It was a crazy turn of events. We went from a Wednesday practice preparing for Furman to a Thursday practice where the freshmen weren't even at practice because they were going up to the hill to get recognized, which is kind of an honor. The academy, they had to cancel a recognition for the freshmen, which is basically, hey, you're no longer a freshman in our eyes. You're now accepted into the Air Force Academy wing. So the freshmen were even at practice, and we basically just did a send-off, mess around practice. I threw my gear on and ran around with the seniors because I knew that was going to be the last time that I ever got to be on a lacrosse field in that capacity with those guys. And that's not what you expect in mid-March by any stretch. It was pretty hard to handle. Those guys, they've been through so much adversity over their careers. They handled it with grace, and I think they're all just looking forward to graduating and thankful they got to graduate early. But yeah, it was a really weird. Nothing I've ever experienced before, for sure.
I'm sure it's not something any of us have ever experienced because we're in a global pandemic, which is way out there in terms of 2020. You're like, wow, 2020 graduating class is pretty solid. This is going to be a pretty interesting year. And then there was a pandemic. So there's that. So what are you guys doing now to engage with your players? What does that look like?
Yeah, a couple different things. We try to meet with them once a week on a video call system we call Teams. I've been trying to integrate our technology systems and film review into it. So I virtually have taught, the staff basically how to use Zoom, share screen, and we use, a video platform that allows us to kind of do instantaneous cuts, but allows our players to do cuts as well. So right now what we're in is we're meeting, the defense is meeting biweekly, the offense is meeting for a little bit longer, just once a week. And we're having we've split it up between the freshmen, sophomores, juniors into a group, and then a group of three basically gives a scouting presentation, but talks about offense, what the other opposing defense is doing. They do it kind of almost a scouting report. It's been pretty cool to incorporate that into our things. Last week, Coach Junior gave a presentation on offense that we ran this year that he ran with the Outlaws. And so it was fun to connect the dots. So the guys are seeing the same things that the pros were running that we run. I think for a lot of our guys, I had a light bulb moment with a freshman. He's like, Coach, I never thought about the 2 slide. I always knew we were supposed to watch the 1 slide, but I never thought that if we passed it twice to the guy that was helping in, we could score on the backside. I was like, light bulb moment for a freshman that he was a pretty good athlete who could play for us one day. So, that's pretty cool. So trying to make the best is honestly what it is. There's a lot of regulation coming down from the NCAA.
Is there?
Yeah, there's a lot of athletic regulation. We can't, they're so cautious, which is good, to kids leaving their houses and what they can and can't do, that regulating workouts, you can give them suggestions, but you can't say, hey, let's talk about your workout today. So, just trying to follow the rules, a rule setting that is by the day changing, because this is by the day a changing scenario. We have no idea. Tomorrow could look very different from today. We could have a cure tomorrow. We could have a vaccine. We could have a better way of testing people tomorrow. So it's taken day by day, for sure.
So what's the messaging been? And then you guys, so the team left, but then the seniors also stayed on campus. So I think that this is kind of a unique circumstance where for most colleges, most, 99.999, everybody was, hey, look, it's time to go. You got to go home. This is how we got to lock this thing down. But at the Air Force Academy, the seniors actually stayed on campus, right? So were you guys able to meet with them? What has been the messaging to the overall team? That's a couple of different questions, but,
Yeah.
I think it's a unique situation there.
I can address the seniors first. Very unique. The difference from what the Air Force Academy did versus Navy and Army, I can speak to that originally. Like, they were on spring break when they just basically said, students, don't come back. We were still in school. Our spring break was the following week. So we're just a little bit later on our spring break. And so instead of sending the seniors home and then not guaranteeing their ability to receive health care, not guaranteeing their ability to there's no idea what we could have exposed them to by sending all these kids home on a flight. The superintendent made the hard decision. I thought, you know what, like, I would have just, for liability reasons, I would have just sent home. But he said, we need to keep the seniors here to ensure their health and safety. And overall, the Air Force Academy, the Academy's mission is to graduate second lieutenants. And so to graduate college degree, second lieutenants, and that's our mission. So when our mission is that, he deemed that it was necessary to uphold the mission and to graduate the seniors. He's like, I just can't guarantee, like, what happens if one of those kids goes home, gets sick, and, I could have prevented that by just keeping them all here. So it wasn't ideal by any stretch. I think our seniors probably felt the most amount of cabin fever of any of us. But they were able to push graduation up from May 28th to April 18th, which is a Herculean effort in itself. There's just a lot of stuff that went down. I mean, the fact that we had the Thunderbirds fly by and Mike Pence spoke, and they put that together in 14 days. I thought that was pretty special. So to speak to that, it was a very unique scenario, but the people here did an incredible job, and our leadership did a really good job of making it special for those guys. Even to the point that, like, every kid was 6 feet away from each other in a chair. It was pretty funny.
Right.
You're like looking and you're like, okay, it looks kind of like all the stars and dots of the American flag, like, spread out perfectly 6 feet apart. So that was pretty special and very unique. I mean, we're the only ones that had to deal with the scenario we were. And I don't know enough about how Navy and Army are going to graduate, or any other schools are going to do graduation, but I know our seniors are going home right now. They're all driving across the country to avoid, mass gatherings in an airplane or something. And they're all pumped to be off of school and off of work, even though they're getting paid right now for the next 60 days. So they're getting paid to go home and hang out with their family. So I know for them, that's pretty exciting.
Right.
Yeah. And then, what was the situation with the underclassmen? I mean, how quickly were they out of there and headed back to their respective homes and families?
Yeah. So Thursday, we found out that Thursday, again, I wish I had my calendar in front of me.
It's all right.
13th. But that Thursday, we canceled everything, right? And then by Friday morning, the entire lower classes were gone.
Wow.
By noon, I would say probably 75 to 80% of them were at the Denver airport, or, the juniors were driving their cars home. Like, everybody was out. It was a mass exodus.
Right. Right. I mean, you kind of spoke to, and we've touched on this, obviously, at, shifting gears here to kind of the recruitment side of it. This show's designed to get to know you guys as coaches, but also to kind of inform the high school athlete and their parents to the recruiting process and everything that's in it. You guys are obviously a unique situation at the Air Force Academy in comparison to pretty much all the other options aside from Navy and Army. And I'm sure that those are unique experiences as well. But can you speak to kind of the unique experience, if a high school kid is saying, yeah, I want to go play lacrosse at the Air Force Academy, and kind of helping them through what the differences might be? I mean, you've got the background that you've coached at every level. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think kind of break it down into a couple different experiences. As a kid, I would say that every kid that is in a potential to be recruited by a service academy that is, that either we reached out or that you're really interested, should just go check it out. I try to tell kids in our recruiting process that this isn't for everybody. I watched a video on John Calipari the other day because all I've been doing is watching ESPN 30 for 30 on my free time. And it was interesting. He's like, playing for me isn't for everybody. It's like, well, the service academies aren't for everybody. But I do think that if you look at Air Force as a service academy, it's very much more for the guy that's looking to go business, the guy that's looking for a pretty good opportunity, a really good education. Academically, we're on par. I mean, I remember the guys at Princeton having just the same level, if not a little bit less of a day-to-day academic challenge than our guys at the academies. That could have potentially just been a numbering, varying degrees of things. But for us, the academics is huge. Like if you're looking for a really good school, top 25 school in the nation, that's us. If you're considering good academic institutions, I tell every recruit, go visit a state school. So if you're in Texas, go to Texas, go visit school, walk around campus. You may not be like, well, I'm going to go play lacrosse there, but you should go visit a state school. You should go visit a private school. And it's expensive if you're in a non-traditional hotbed and you're trying to go visit these places. Well, you don't know where you want to go, and the recruiting period could potentially push back. But what you can do is you could probably go walk around a private school in Dallas, or if you're in Dallas, or if you're in California, go visit a private school. Just go visit a school. It doesn't mean that that's the exact same experience you're going to have at a private school in the Northeast, but you'll get a private school experience and you'll understand, okay, do I like small classes? Do I like big classes? Do I like the professors knowing my name? And when I miss class, they call me out, because that's what's going to happen at a small school or the Air Force Academy. Like your professors are going to be military rotating, young that's military, or older military, or we have a bunch of civilians that's broken into thirds. They're going to know your name, and they're going to know when you don't show up to class. It's a big difference than if you go to a state school where there's 500 kids in a lecture hall, and it's really on you to go to class and reach out to the professor or their TA, teaching aide. And so by visiting varying schools within your local area, you can get an experience so that when September 1 comes and you get all these schools calling, if you decide big schools aren't for me and you get a call from a Big Ten school or an ACC school that's a little bit bigger, you can decide, okay, is that really what I want to do? Or do I really, because I'm high academic student, do I really want to go to a smaller school field, maybe the IVs, or if you guys kind of gather what I'm saying. So
yeah,
Sure.
That's really in the recruiting process. I think that's the most important thing for kids early on. If you're having those conversations right now, just go walk around a campus. I mean, my wife and I walked around Colorado College's campus the other day just to do it. I've never been downtown Colorado Springs. I've driven around, but I've never walked around it. And it's a pretty beautiful campus, and it's a really cool place. They've got a nice walk. They've got a lot of old school feel. I mean, it was built in like the 1880s. So, the history nerd in me was all jazzed up about that.
Right. And I mean, you mentioned the academic rigors, and then there's also a military component and training to it, so is, by the time your guys get to the lacrosse field, are they just like, thank goodness, like we're playing lacrosse right now? I mean, is that different than other places that you've been?
I do think that for our guys, lacrosse is a little bit more of like their release than potentially at other places. I mean, I don't want to speak badly about some of the institutions, but there were definitely days 2 months into seasons that I've been a part of at other places where they were like, Coach, I don't want to be at practice. I'm done. I just want to play games, and our guys get there a little bit, but we try to, like, one of the things that, Coach Junior and I try to incorporate at the beginning of practice is we'll play 3-by. We're out there, we're just like run around with them, and we try to just have some fun, give them a little bit of time to just decompress and relax, because it is a little bit more of a stressful environment with academics and the training. As a Division I athlete at the Air Force Academy, after your freshman year, a lot of your military training is reduced because of the amount of load that you're going to have with Division I athletics. That's one thing people kind of think. It's like, so every day I got like 4 hours of lacrosse, film, lifting, practice. and I got 4 hours of school, and then I got like 4 hours of military. I'm like, no. The military component is reduced because also you're an upperclassman, and you've been through it your freshman year. You're probably gonna have a little training in the morning, and you potentially could have some training in the evenings. But even then, the majority of the training goes on in the afternoons when you're at lacrosse practice. And if you watch our guys run sprints and do their workouts, that's a lot of training. Our guys are usually doing pretty good in the military component side of their lives. They're usually some of the higher achievers because of their conditioning and physical abilities as Division I athletes.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. 3x is the best. Been in some 3x games with you.
I was just thinking about that as I was jumping on the call.
Yeah. The coaches, the pre-combine coaches 3x games at the winter and summer combines have been pretty epic over the years. They can get aggressive depending on personalities.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Coach Wilkes and I we have a monumental run in this year that I almost lost my knee, but
yeah,
you know what? I love it. I wouldn't want any different.
Yeah. So, with regards to recruiting and, highlight tapes and all of that, I'm curious if, what impact you see this having on the recruiting cycle, but also, just what is it that you're looking for? Like what jumps off the page? Like what are the things that you want to see from a player to set them apart from a highlight tape to kind of proceed down the rest of the process, right? If that's the first time you've seen the kid, how does he get on your big board? How do you proceed from there? But what are the things that they should be including on their tapes?
Yeah. I'll go recruiting tapes, and then I'll go recruiting landscape second. So I'll try to stay on track here. Recruiting tapes, it's funny, like I was kind of looking at some of the list of things that you guys had mentioned, and having the ability to recruit both sides of the ball, face-off guys, it's so very different. Like I think athleticism jumps off the page. And then I think secondly, like understanding of the game. If you're standing next to your teammate, waving your stick in the air, and then you catch it because he's like, well, I can't do anything else, and he throws you the ball and you shoot it from 15 yards and score, that doesn't wow me because you have no idea of the spacing that you need to be a good lacrosse player, right? So I think kids having an understanding of lacrosse, like in their highlight tape, you can watch a defenseman, and if he's going against a kid and the ball's out of bounds and his attackman, and he's like, oh, I'm going to have a great video of me playing defense, but he's a right-handed attackman, and you let him go to his right hand, like you have no understanding of how to play defense because you obviously haven't studied your opponent in the beginning of the game. Your kid, I try to teach kids, I'm like, being good at lacrosse is just a couple little preparation things. Okay, when I'm walking out to the field, what side of the field is my attackman on? What hand stick is he carrying it in? Which way does he want to go? Is he a big kid? Is he a small kid? Okay, how do I have to defend? Like, or vice versa. My defenseman, if I'm a small attackman, like, okay, does he cross his feet? Does he do these things? And it's amazing. You can see kids that instinctively just do that. And you probably could ask them, they'd be like, well, I don't know. I just do it. I just roll back and I beat my guy, but they have this instinctive timing. So it's unique to watch film, right? And see the kids that understand certain things. There's kids that instinctively do things, but every kid can physically do certain little things if they just go in with an understanding of the game. And so I would say I look for athleticism first, skill set. I've watched enough lacrosse that I can watch a kid catch a ball, and if he catches the ball, or if he squats down to catch a low pass instead of running through it, I automatically put a check against him because I hate watching kids squat catch. Like that's the first thing I have to break. I have to break kids that we recruit's bad habits because no one else did it. Because they snatch catch, they don't run through their catch, they stop their feet when they pass. Like if you can run through your catch and run through your pass, you're going to be a decent lacrosse player at the next level, just purely based on the fact that like you can be serviceable to the rest of your team because you do the fundamentals right. So skill set is fundamentals, and then ability there. And then last thing is IQ. So those are kind of the three big things. And then watching, I don't need to watch 20 minutes of slow-mo. Like if I see more than one slow-mo video, I'm usually like are you doing this for your buddies or are you doing this to get recruited? Because if you're doing it for your buddies, that's cool. I get it. Like if you wanted to go on East Coast Eyes and blow up on YouTube, that's cool. Like, I mean, that's the world we live in today. But I don't need to watch 20 minutes of slow-mo. So if you have one slow-mo video, it's cool. I don't need to watch the same clip 4 times in a row. Like if you show a slow-mo version and then your dad's handheld version and then like the up top stadium version of the same clip, it's like, I got it, man. You scored a goal. It was great. Was it the game-winning goal? Cool. Like I'm glad you're able to do that. But I want to see the diversity of your skill set. I want to see you be able to ride. I want to see you pick up ground balls that are tough. I want to see the overall lacrosse game. And it's hard. I understand, but it is interesting if you watch kids highlight videos, who understands lacrosse and who doesn't. It's very evident very quickly.
That was one of the things with Coach Eric Skelly that we discussed is, are we at a point now where there is the player promo video, which is for like your buddies and, just to hype yourself? And then is there a recruiting video? Because I think that there's the mixture of the two now, which is there's a convergence there, and we might need to peel them apart.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good conversational topic for club coaches and any, advisors to young men in the high school world that want to try to play at the next level, with that highlight film being an integral part now, because I can go back, I love him and I hate him. The reason I love him is because I can love a kid and I can watch him play. But when I go back to Coach Wilson and Coach Junior and they haven't watched him play, they're either taking my word or I can show them the video and they can be like, oh, I like this kid. Okay. And it can expedite the process for that young man. I think I love Coach Chamati. He's one of the most meticulous recruiters I've ever been around. And they have a lot of set rules, but they will have to get multiple eyes on a kid before they'll even, consider offering him a spot on their team. And they have to watch him and they watch him and they watch him over time because they want to make sure they're getting, their bang for their buck with the recruiting process. And I respect that so much, because it's very easy to watch a kid play one time and be like, he's awesome, But then, to have a good staff that says, okay, let's look at this kid again. The highlight film can be a conduit to that kid getting recruited faster.
Yeah. So, what are a couple of the things that, you touched on the slow motion. Coach Skelly hit that one too. But, what are some other things that just kind of drive you nuts? Like the things you're just like, man, why'd you do that?
Yeah. Every coach will say it. Music makes a big difference. I'm not against, I like our guys' warm-up tapes. I'm a young coach. Like I listen to a lot of different things, but knowing your audience, like, hey, if I really want to get recruited by Syracuse, Coach Desko's an older guy. Let's do some research on what kind of music Coach Desko maybe likes, having an awareness. Like if I'm putting like the newest, mumble rapper on my video and all he's doing is dropping F-bombs and N-bombs, and you're just like, does this young man actually have an understanding of what he's doing, or does he just have no respect? There's a lot of things. Like it's amazing what a video can be, because it can potentially be your first interaction with the head coach because the assistant coach watched you. So you have to think, I'm not saying put Mozart on there, but try to figure out some of the audience. Try to at least pick a clean version. I think that is a huge thing. Like I'm a guy that like I don't try to curse as a coach. I don't want my players dropping bombs. Coach Wilson's very adamant, because we're trying to develop young men of character to change the world for good. And I don't need you having a locker room conversation in that setting. And so if they have no awareness of how their music is playing out, like either they think they're good, better than they are, they don't care, or they're just not aware. And all those things can be very nerve-wracking in a coaching situation when our livelihoods depend on 18 and 22-year-old kids. And so for parents, if they're watching this, like just think about the music that your kid puts in there, and just try to be respectful with it. Like it doesn't have to necessarily be like the exact music they love as coaches. Like it doesn't have to be classic rock every time, but I think you can spice that up. But the slow-mo and the music probably, and then like quick cuts. Like I want to see the whole play, and to narrow this down as well. Like I want to see more than just like a quick like catch shot. Like great, you can catch and shoot, but I want to see you set that up. How did you know to be in that spot? How did you know that that was the skip lane, right? So give me a little bit more than just like 3 seconds for a clip.
So then would it ever make sense for a player to send you a good quarter of play or a good half of play? Is that something that coaches are looking for at all?
If you're going to do that, at this point, like I know plenty of coaches that will, used to, this year's a little different, but they would recruit from MSG varsity, used to host like all the Long Island, all the New York State games. They would host all these games, like, and so they'd watch whole games,
Right.
and I know a lot of coaches that'll watch Founders League games that are filmed now and huddle, and those things will happen. I would say if you're going to do that, still go in and edit it. Like if I'm watching an attackman,
Right.
I don't need to watch the defense on the other end of the field. So just maybe cut it so that I watch a whole possession. And then instead of spending 45 minutes with a fast forward button going, like I can watch 15 minutes of where you were actually like on the offensive end of the field.
Right. All right, that's great. Can you talk about some of the hidden plays that you think offensive guys should show on their tape? Anything that, you spoke to cutting through, not just sitting there waving your stick, right? That might not be a good play that you really want to see because the guy's just taking up space. So are there any things, specifics like that you might want to see on a clip?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a lot of things. That goes back to that IQ piece. The kids understand it and then this is an educational component. So, yeah, I really honestly like watching kids throw flat-footed passes is like it gives me nightmares. So, like that's the thing I have to break the most with our guys. We get a lot of guys from non-traditional areas, and they're used to being able to throw a cross-field flat-footed pass because no one's on their gloves. And now all of a sudden they have to run through their catch, run through their pass, and throw the same thing and make the same decision. So I think it's underrated for kids to be able to run through a catch and then run and keep running and make the next play. So plays that are while their feet are moving, because that's how the game is the fastest game on 2 feet. Off ball, understanding when you set it, like it would be great to see kids who know how to set a pick, like on the right guy. Like, oh, they're switching the pick on the back side. Let's set a pick on my own guy. Let's seal my own guy instead of just running up to their guy and hitting him, and they just switch automatically. It's like, well, I did what coach told me to do.
Right.
Okay, but did you understand what you were doing? Do you understand the why? So going to that point, how to set a good pick, how to cut, can you spin your guy? And I'm sure I'm saying these things and people are like, what? It's like, well, okay, when you cut, is your guy able to keep his hands on you and still watch the ball? Or does he have to completely turn around and not watch the ball to follow you? Because that's a great cut. If your guy goes with you, right, instead of being able to do multiple things, like you're going to be able to probably find space and be able to attack the defense. So little things like that, like do you notice those things? And that, again, ultimately, like that's hard to teach kids, especially in a non-traditional area where it's like, okay, Jimmy, here's the ball. You run through everybody and shoot it, right? So.
Yeah, Coach Crimmins Sr., huge cutting behind the head. Cut behind your man's head. Make sure that he follows you. So I think he would appreciate that. In terms of player highlight distribution, when you consume player highlights, is that more through the proactive email that somebody's going to send you, or are you consuming that through social media, or where are you going to find that clip for the most part?
For the most part, it's when kids email us. If there's two hands there. If I'm sitting in my, like right now, I probably get 10 emails a day, and I think these kids are doing their right by themselves by being proactive. I added a 2022 to our board that sent us an email last week because it was a decent enough film. And I was like, all right, let's take a look when we get a chance. He's now on a team that we're going to want to look after. So that's proactive. I'm not against that. I don't need the email that's like, I'm this student and this. I'm not going to read right now a 20-page email. If you just say, hey, coach, I'm really interested. If you have prior service to, my grandfather served, That's cool. I like that stuff. I like seeing, my grandfather served, like I have family that served, like cool connection. But I don't need the 20-page thing. Like if you want to add your transcript, great. Like those are 2 attachments I can click on and I can see what I need to see, a video, a transcript. The best is when kids will like send me like their name, their height, their weight, their position, their highlight film, and then nowhere does it say their high school, where they're from, any contact information other than an email address, like any coach, like, you should try to just give the most who, what, when, where component to every email and keep it short because, I can't tell you how many emails I get that are 2 pages long and I don't even read any of it. And maybe they're just copying and pasting it to every coach. But, I think some of these kids really put a lot of time and effort in, and it's like, wow, you could go out and hit the wall for that 30 minutes that you spent writing this email if you would just shorten it up.
Right.
So that's just me. I mean, some coaches probably love that stuff.
Well, and I think that each coach is different and what they're looking for. I mean, that's just even in the recruiting process, every coach has their own, each coaching staff has the way that they approach it. So the range of insight, I think, is crucial because that's, that also is going to ultimately kind of demonstrate the fit, right? Where do certain kids fit? Certain kids fit at one spot versus another. And that's tremendously insightful. So that all sounds great. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, that's excellent. Just one other last question that kind of popped up as I was sitting here is, we've kind of talked about from the recruiting tape side of it, but I mean, Coach, you spend a lot of your summers in lawn chairs, at fields with books. You're watching a game live, right? What is it that you can glean from that you can't from a highlight? If you're watching a specific guy, are you mannerisms, how he interacts, all those things?
Yeah. I mean, you can see part of the reason in-person recruiting is still, the defining factor of our sport is because there's just so many things. From the moment you step on the field, like, are you the guy in the huddle or are you the guy outside of the huddle looking at a butterfly? Like, from the finish of the game, does your mom carry your bag for you or do you carry your bag for you, right? When your parents, when they're supported and say, hey, great game, honey, and you're like, shut up, mom. Like, we listen, we're there. I walk around. Like, I'm always around. If I really liked a guy in a game, I'm not going to talk to him. I'm not going to bump into him, but I'll watch him. Because you know what? At the end of the day, I can instill, as a coach, over 4 years, I can work on character development, and we can work on things, but there's nothing worse than a bad attitude. Let's be honest, like, if you're a kid from Stick Star Lacrosse and you're coming out to Baltimore to play lacrosse, you are a 1%er. There are nobody else in this world. Like, I mean, I've spent time in South Africa, man. I've seen poverty on a different scale. Like, you're blessed. And if you don't know that, either there's a disconnect or, you're probably not the right guy for us, because we need a little bit of that humble, a little bit of that understanding and thankfulness. There's a reason every coach will finish a camp and the last thing they say is make sure you thank your parents. It's not for the lack of just to say it. It's because you need to understand, like, people have worked hard to get you to where you are. This is a blessing. It's a gift, and we're all finding out very quickly right now what life is like without lacrosse. To get off my high horse with the mom carrying my bag stuff, in game, how you interact with your coaches. Like, so much of lacrosse is, yes, playing on the field, but so much is who you are. I believe in character and the person, and it was revealed. How do you handle when the goalie stuffs you? Like, how do you handle that? Do you ride? Like, I'm telling you right now, this is the biggest controversy for Coach Junior and I is riding. I believe, and this is a Coach Ceriment thing that I got from him, but I believe if you tenaciously ride, like, look at Notre Dame. Like, they've won games that they were 5 goals down, 6 goals down because of their 10-man ride, because they just get after you. Like, they recruit guys that are pissed off, for greatness. And being pissed off for greatness involves riding. It involves getting dirty, getting your nose down on the ground ball. There's some savvy in there. There's some skill set. But one of my favorite players I've ever coached, one of the most competitive human beings I've ever met, his name is Zach Currier. Greatest ground ball guy I've ever been around. And you could ask anybody. Like, nobody I've ever seen pick up a ground ball the way that guy could pick up a ground ball. Just freakish with his understanding. He could be in a group of 3 people and come up with it and then make a play to create a goal. It's just who he is. And that's why he's the #1 draft pick in the PLL. They had their auxiliary draft. So, some of those intangibles beyond that. One of the things, just up from a lacrosse standpoint, if I'm recruiting an offensive player and his elbows are in tight and he's doing this and he's pushing it, I'm probably going to write you off. You have to be able to catch the ball behind your ear and follow through, extend your hands. It is a beautiful thing when you get a guy that's able to extend and have fluidity in his movement, because that means he's practiced a lot of wall ball, done a lot of shooting, and he's almost in essence won with a stick. As a guy, is he able to use his offhand? Even if he's just using his offhand to set up his strength, is that something? For defensemen, how good are you off ball? Like, do you ball watch? Can you keep your head on a swivel? Do you understand how to open up and keep your, pistols out, as Coach Skelly would say? I can imagine him at camp, like sitting here just getting all jacked up about talking about off-ball positioning and using your stick. And, we preach huge amount of being able to use the stick in the passing lane and using both hands as a defenseman. Not a lot of people do that, but that's part of the reason why I think we've had one of the best scoring defenses in the country. Is Coach Wilson is adamant about, can you use both hands and can you put your stick in the passing lane with both hands? Because it's really hard to do this, right, across your body. So, and then pure, like athleticism is and desire. There's like a level of toughness. I think that would be the last component I would want to talk about. 2 more components: toughness and competition, because those are elements like, as a person, we step out there after a recruiting event to go play, pick up basketball, and I want to win. I'm going to go compete. And there's guys that love it. And we get after each other and we'll walk away like with a sprained ankle, and it was worth it because we got to compete. We gave it all in the field. There's no championship trophy for us, right? Club sports has taken away a little bit of that competitive element, because you can just go get recruited and not win the game. And I think that detracts. Like, I understand there's some coaches like, I just want to see the kid play. Like, I don't really care who wins the game. I'm like, I completely disagree, because ultimately I want a guy that when the game's on the line, like, wants to go win, and he's going to make that game-winning play for his team, or he understands that, like, okay, I need to take man so that my teammate can pick the ball up and create a transition opportunity. So toughness and competition. And those are things that you really just can't see, and you don't feel it like you do when you're live. So when you're live, like, bringing competitive edge, like that one teammate that's almost a little bit too competitive, you should try to be more like him, because that guy is going to carry your team in a way that not a lot of other guys, So I think those are elements that we see in person that it's hard to see on a tape. It's hard to get like your blood pumping and excited about, hey, timeout, end of the game, 7-7, Stick Star versus FCA, and you're going into a huddle, running a play, and like, okay, who's coach going to put the ball stick in? Who's going to get the pick? How is FCA's defense going to play this? Like, you get excited about that moment as a coach, because in that moment you can see a lot about who's on the field.
Right, and this summer it's going to be interesting if how much of that we're going to be able to see, just in general. I think that's probably a topic for an entire other show, because it's just very variable right now. Very variable.
I'm a positive guy.
Right.
I believe in positivity. I really honestly think we're going to see lacrosse on that scale come July. I would be surprised if June really happens. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of tournaments push through and July becomes like our big month, just getting out and potentially maybe, I think I told you guys, but like state by state basis. But I think we're gonna find a way to make it happen for the kids. Like the 2022 recruiting class and 21 recruiting classes, they deserve it. They're worthy. Like, a lot of these kids didn't get their spring season to build the highlight tape, and this is their chance. And I think that the virus doesn't take our hopes and dreams into account. But I really honestly think that we'll see some club lacrosse come July. So positive guy over here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Kyle, anything else?
No, Coach, I just wanted to say really appreciate it. It's good catching up with you.
Sure.
You know,
You guys are awesome.
congrats again on the marriage.
Woo.
And life's slowing down a little bit for you right after that. It's awesome. And we talked about it before. Just make sure you tell that lovely wife of yours she's doing an excellent job with your haircuts, my man.
Oh my gosh, I know she cleaned me up. If you guys are looking for a haircut, haircut day by Jill. She's great. So.
Right. So haircuts and backgrounds. I mean, you guys have got it all locked in over there. The Zoom background you're throwing down is definitely number one so far. So we appreciate that as well.
Yeah, the Air Force Academy tries to keep us all looking the par, I guess. So thankful for that.
That makes sense. Details. Well, again, Coach, we really appreciate it. Really appreciate your insight. For Kyle Saunders, Coach Dan Carson, I'm Anthony Crimmins, and we'll see you all real soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Space show, quarantine time. Excellent.